Hello, I'm Tony Ingram, and welcome to another episode of Walk in the Park. Today is recorded on the 24th of October. This is episode number 25. Be shown at various times. In fact, I made up a little video to tell you what my schedule is. We'll take a look at that for a moment here. So it's going to be posted on the TV, but we'll look at it right here. Hi, I'm Tony Ingram with Walk in the Park. Join me every week on Public Access Channel 13 as we go to parks all around Ithaca and beyond, including Buttermilk Falls, Robert Treman, Teganic Falls, Fillmore Glen, and Watkins Glen State Parks, plus Finger Lakes Land Trust Preserves, Cornell Plantations Preserves, out on Cayuga Lake, and many, many other places around Ithaca, around central New York and the Finger Lakes region and beyond. Okay, so we show on Thursday evenings at 9 o'clock, on Saturday and Sunday at 10:30 in the morning, and then on Tuesdays at 8 o'clock, and the station manager often shows Walk in the Park at other times. So, okay, well, today's show we're going to take a look at fall colors, because October, of course, is that time of year, and it's been another spectacular year. But before we go there, I want to take a quick look at some interesting historic events happening in parks. This one having to do with national parks. So we're going to go actually out to California here and take a look at this. This is a poster put up by National Parks Conservation Association, and it's about Cesar Chavez National Monument. Now, who was Cesar Chavez? Well, first I'll just say President Barack Obama signed a presidential proclamation on October 8, 2012, creating the Cesar E. Chavez National Monument in Keene, California, at Nuestra Senora Reina de la Paz, and the national headquarters of the United Farm Workers of America, and the home of Cesar Chavez from 1971 to 1993. So, okay, I'll read a little bit more about him. Under the leadership of Cesar Chavez and others, such as Dolores Huerta and Larry Itliong, along with support from millions of Americans, the farm worker movement joined forces with other reform movements to achieve unprecedented successes that greatly improved working and living conditions and wages for farm workers. During the 1970s, the United Farm Workers of America, UFW, grew and expanded from its early roots as a union for farm workers to also become a national voice for the poor and disenfranchised. The enduring legacies of Cesar Chavez and the farm worker movement include passage of California's Agricultural Labor Relations Act of 1975, the first law in the U.S. that recognized farm workers' collective bargaining rights. So this is a real important moment in labor history, and it's great to see a national monument to this hero. Many of you, if you're my age, you may remember the boycott grapes movement to support the farm workers that back at that time. This is actually at the dedication. That's Paul Chavez's, Cesar Chavez's son. Cesar is no longer with us at the site, as you can see, and this is a crowd that's gathered. There were thousands of people there, but you may remember, if you're of my vintage, the call for people all over the country to boycott grapes in California that were picked on farms that were resisting the Organization of United Farm Workers against the terrible conditions and pitiful wages that they were working under, and finally got the right to organize. And a lot of people don't realize what we owe to the labor movement over the last century and a half or so. Things like the weekend, the 40-hour work week, child protective laws not allowing children to work, and health care for workers, and Social Security, and a whole lot of other things are a result of the labor movement. So it's great to see a labor site like this. Okay, so get back to our regular screen here. So after that, now we're going to go to our main theme for the day, which is fall colors. So here's a scene out in Finger Lakes National Forest. That's Burnt Hill. If you're driving Route 79 west of Ithaca to Watkins Glen, there is this beautiful hillside, which doesn't look quite like this anymore, but look at all the colors that we have in that hill. It's even a cloudy day, but it's still beautiful. And in the Northeast, we get a rich variety of colors, in large part due to sugar maples and red maples and trees like that that turn red. This year it's been a little bit duller, I think, than some other years. This is actually in Buttermilk Falls State Park over what's called Owl Gorge. I live not far from there. And showing two different colors of leaves on trees. And some trees will tend to turn red in the sun, and other trees will never turn red. Now, I'm not sure what species that is in the back there. I didn't have my binoculars to tell the leaves. It may be sugar maples or it may be something else. But in any case, their yellow color back there is due to some pigments that are always in the leaf but are masked by the green chlorophyll. And these are called carotenoids. It's a class of chemicals that are pigments that are kind of like chlorophyll, but they perform other functions. And well, for instance, they may handle other wavelengths of light that chlorophyll does not, and be able to get some transfer some energy chemically from sunlight that way. They may also protect the leaves from damage by sunlight, sort of a sunburn protection as well. But other trees, or sugar maples, for instance, if they're exposed to the sun, like this one is at Watkins Glen right here, may turn red, or like these, this is a white oak actually, but when it's in the sun, its leaves will often turn red. White oak, not because of the color of the leaves, of course, but because there is a red oak and there's a black oak, but either the bark or the wood, I think, is probably the reason for the color. It has a lighter colored wood, whereas red oak has a reddish colored wood. But the sugar maple and many of the oaks, when they are exposed to the sun, will turn red, or may turn red in the fall. And that's not because of pigments that are in the leaf all season, like the yellow carotenoids, but rather the what they call anthocyanins, which are responsible for a lot of different colors in nature, like red fruits and red flowers, and blue and purple fruits and flowers as well are kinds of anthocyanin chemicals. But in this case, they form sort of accidentally. They are the sunlight hits breakdown products as the leaf is dying, is being cut off from the twig, so that fluids don't pass back and forth and photosynthesis shut down. So there are breakdown products in the leaf. When the sunlight hits them, it may turn them red. And if you look at the sugar maple, you'll notice, if you look closely, you can see that there are leaves deeper into the tree that either have not turned or have not turned red because they're not exposed to the sun. And often they will turn yellow and not red because they're not exposed to the sun. So that yellow pigment is in the red leaves as well, but it's masked by the anthocyanins in this case. So that's a pretty cool thing. So I've been asked when I was a naturalist in the state park, sometimes I'd be asked, well, what's the purpose of fall colors? What's the biological purpose? Well, the carotenoids, obviously are serve a function, and perhaps in sort of photosynthesis, but the red colors appear to have no function at all. They are just sort of like my hair turning white. You know, it's not, doesn't serve at least any biological function. Maybe it tells some people that I'm a venerable elder and I should be listened to and have some wise experience, or else I'm an old duffer that needs to get out of the way. I'm not sure which, but in any case. But it doesn't serve any direct biological thing. It's just a something we get to enjoy as leaves. As we're going to lose the leaves, so we might as well enjoy them as they are getting ready to drop. So fall colors are not unique to the Northeast. We have them all over the country. For instance, this is down in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Shenandoah National Park, and there's fall colors going on there, all up and down the mountains. They have more of a dominance of oaks, although they have maples, but they tend to get more of the more muted colors, yellows and dark reds and browns and so forth. If you go out west, say like in this picture in Glacier National Park, you don't get as much of the reds. You get a lot of the yellows from aspen. There's lots and lots of aspen forests out there. There are some maples, the big-leafed maple. I think I have a picture of that in a moment. But you tend to get you get a little bit of a maybe an orangish tinge in the aspens. But here's an interesting one in Glacier National Park. That's in Montana. This one's in Utah. It's not a national park. It's a national forest. And someday we'll talk about the difference. But this one is actually in what's called Fish Lake National Forest in the Rockies. And I'll read about it a little bit. There's a colony of quaking aspen, and that's what this is here. Is estimated 80,000 years old, though no individual tree currently alive is anywhere near that age. Even the oldest non-clonal trees in the world, at some 4,000 plus years of age, don't approach the age of the root system of this organism known as pando, or trembling giant. Trembling from the quaking, or the name of quaking aspen in Latin is Populus, which means poplar, Populus tremuloides. So I guess that's how they get that nickname for it here. But just looking at this, again, I'm going to read a little bit more about it, but I just say that, what do they mean by clone? Well, a clone is where you have a plant that, or tree in this case, obviously, where the individual stems are all genetically identical, and they all come from the same root system, which is what has such enormous age here. So they go on to say, this is from National Forest, I guess. On the western edge of the Colorado Plateau, a single root system has been metabolically alive for 80,000 years. So this is not the Rockies, but the Colorado Plateau, which is west of the Rockies. Or maybe more. There's some debate on the age, with that figure being a conservative estimate. So taken as a whole, all individual trunks, branches, and leaves weigh in at an estimated 6,600 tons, the heaviest known organism on the planet. And it's a tree, or rather trees, operating on an entirely different time scale than most other plants, and certainly any animal, covering 106 acres. So I guess that's the oldest and the largest single organism, technically speaking. So that's pretty cool. Let's go on to, this is Zion National Park in southern Utah. And you can see there's a little bit of color there. They're mostly evergreens there, pines and junipers and so forth. But down along that wash, that dry creek bed, is there are what I think are big leaf maples. That's what the label said. I got these from National Park Service, all these pictures. So, okay, so all around the country we have fall colors, but let's pull back in here and see what we've got locally. I'm going to go up in the air here with Bill Hecht, who is a friend and a local resident who loves to get up in an airplane and fly around and take pictures of our landscape. And we're very, very grateful and fortunate to have him share all this with us. This is obviously looking over Cayuga Lake and Ithaca and Cornell on the right. And if you look in the lower left, very extreme lower left, you might be able to work out make out a ravine or a valley down there. That's 6 Mile Creek. And let's go down to the 6 Mile Creek nature area, natural area, and walk along there, like I did just a few days ago. And it's a lovely walk. It's the Mulholland Wildflower Preserve, this section of it, and lots of nice colorful trees along the creek, and very pretty this time of year. A lot of people walk their dogs down there. These are these low trees hanging under the shade of the forest here are witch hazel, which is actually used, used to be commercially harvested en masse from the forest to extract the witch hazel element in it that's used as an astringent, I guess they say. And looking at the bank of the creek here, and another scene along the creek. Now here we've got some overhanging beech tree leaves. There are a lot of beeches along here. There are not any many big beeches anymore. The beeches have been killed back mostly by a beech bark disease that's partly caused by an insect and also a fungus, I believe. In any case, we've lost most of our big beeches, which is very sad. But there are some smaller ones around. And look at the leaves on the left here have the yellow pigment in them that they've always had all season. And the ones on the right are a little more advanced. The yellow pigment itself is deteriorating, and it's starting to turn turn sort of a coppery color, and you've probably heard the term copper beeches. Well, leaves will often persist into the winter for a long time, and they have a light coppery color. That's due to tannins in the leaf, and the tannins are what make leaves brown and throughout the winter. So the tannic acid keeps them from decaying right away. I don't know if it's biologically intentional, so to speak, but it does sort of result in a slow time release of the nutrients, the minerals and so forth in the leaf throughout the next 6 months and then into the spring. So we're going to go back up in the air here and swing around. We're looking now way down Cayuga Lake. Look how Cayuga Lake bends around to the north, and it's really a zigzag lake here, looking right over Ithaca, Stewart Park right in the center there. And then we're going to swing around and look to on the right hand side from the left. This view, Cornell is on the left hand side of the picture, and then there's a ravine there on the left hand side. That's Cascadilla Gorge or Cascadilla Glen, and to the right of that, in the center of the picture and on the right, is College Town. So we're just going to drop down for a minute to College Avenue Bridge, where it crosses Cascadilla Glen, and look out downstream towards the city, and then look upstream towards the campus, and you might see back in the woods there the little footbridge that goes between College Town and the engineering quadrangle. So then we'll get up again, and we'll take another look from one of Bill Heck's aerial pictures here. We'll go back that same view, but just shifting the camera a little to the left, with Cascadilla Gorge on the right and Fall Creek Gorge on the left, and right in the middle between them, you can really see how the Cornell campus, most of it, is right between those two gorges, and that was originally Ezra Cornell's farm. And but we're going to take a look at this place that the arrow is pointing, that most of us are familiar with. This is the bottom end of the Fall Creek Gorge, which is where Ithaca Falls is. And I went back there, I don't know, a week and a half or so ago, and took some pictures. Maybe it's just last week. Yeah, I think it's just last week. And I also took some video I'll show you in a moment. But it was really pretty in there. And a few shots of getting closer up to the falls. And then you walk through the short path through the woods, and you get these great glimpses of the falls through the woods, and finally get up close to it. And I didn't go all the way up to it at this point, but it's so easy to do that, and I do have other pictures like that. But there it is. This is I posted this picture up on Facebook, and it got very popular. But if you look at the initial pictures that I showed you in this sequence, this one was taken from the Lake Street Bridge, and crosses Fall Creek there. And if you turn around and look the other way, you look at Fall Creek heading downstream towards Cayuga Lake. So it goes across the flats of Ithaca, no longer any rugged route to negotiate, and it's mostly wooded along the way. Goes the back of Stewart Park, between Stewart Park and the Newman Golf Course. And it's great. So, well, I'm just going to keep going back up in the air. It's going to go back up with Bill Hecht again. This is looking down on the bottom of the picture is the Treman Marina, Allen Treman Marina. And then just above that is the mouth of Cayuga Inlet. And above that is Stewart Park. And, of course, the left is the south end of Cayuga Lake. And then flying north up the west side of the lake in the center and lower left, that's Teganic Gorge. What a beautiful shot of Teganic Gorge, all illuminated with fall foliage. We swing around and looking directly east over the gorge to Cayuga Lake. And you can see Teganic Point there, and extending out on the lake. See it there too. And then looking straight down on the gorge, took me a while to figure out where this is, but this is actually the upper gorge. It's not the gorge where the falls is, but upstream from there. So a lot of people don't discover the upper gorge right away, but the trail goes around the top of it. The trail does not go on the bottom of it. That they don't let you do, and they get very unhappy if you go down in there. Park police take a great interest in you. So, so I went up there on a week and a half or so ago and walked up the gorge with a friend and took a couple of pictures of the colors before they were fully turned like they have been lately. and we got up to the main amphitheater, the falls there, and then looking up in the late afternoon, you can get some illumination of the changing trees in the upper gorge just above the falls. So, Teaganic from the air, from the ground. And now we'll continue flying up the west side of the lake. This is looking south from Interlaken down towards Ithaca up at the top. And actually Teaganic is up there. This is way up north, but the upper sort of right pictures on the right-hand side of the lake, there Teaganic Point sticks out there if you can make that out. But on the other side, just a little bit farther south, is Myers Point in Lansing, and this is Lansing Town Park or Myers Park, and the mouth of Salmon Creek coming out in the lake. And this is one of Bill's pictures as well, so I decided to throw it in because it was very pretty. Back up in the air. Now we're looking north, turning around from that picture that was looking south. We're looking north over Interlaken towards the northern reaches of Cayuga Lake, and that's really lovely in the late afternoon, illuminating all those changing trees. And swinging a little bit, looking more directly north, you can see on the upper right is Cayuga Lake, and the upper left is the northern end of Seneca Lake. So this is Interlaken, I guess, and Seneca County. And then swinging over to look at Seneca Lake on the left, actually has a label on it. There is a big gorge gully coming through the uplands there towards the lake and comes down to the lake. And Bill wasn't sure which one this is, and I don't know right off which one it is without being on the ground to actually see it or comparing it to a map or something, so not as familiar with that landscape as I am over here. He flew farther west to the next lake, over to Keuka Lake, looking north towards the two branch, the east branch on the right and the west branch on the left, and in between is Bluff Point. And Keuka Lake, of course, is lovely. Now, Keuka Lake used to be a river, and the two branches of it joined in the middle there and flowed south or to the lower left. And the glaciers came along and just rode down those two river valleys that joined together and left a lake in them after the Ice Age. So now we're going to fly up around the left-hand branch or the west branch and look over the very top of it. And that's actually a community up there called Branchport. And you can look over and see just the very top of, on the right-hand side of the west branch, and then in the upper right is the top of the east branch, and the northern end of that, the very end of that is the village of Penn Yan, and Branchport is down the lower right. And just off the picture to the right would be Keuka Lake State Park. It's going to be the future home of the Finger Lakes Museum. Going farther west, one more lake over to Canandaigua Lake, looking over a big hill on the south of Canandaigua Lake on the east side, and the valley that continues south. You can really imagine the glaciers gouging out this ancient river valley, and because you can see how the hills there are scarfed off. And just left of center is the village of Naples. What a lovely picture. Now just a couple of shots from Bill looking straight down. Here's some in the late afternoon light. This almost looks like a bunch of lollipops. These trees are so colorful. And then, what is this picture of? When you look down, there's a whole bunch of dots. Are they sheep in the field? No, those are those big round hay bales in the lowering sun with nice shadows. So that's pretty cute. And then finally, one down on the ground that Bill took. It was not sure, south of one of the lakes. I don't know if it was Cayuga Lake or Seneca Lake or whatever. But a pumpkin farm and a beautiful rainbow behind it here. So very nice, very nice. Thank you very much, Bill Hecht, for giving us those beautiful pictures of fall colors from the air all over the central and western Finger Lakes. So now I'm going to go over to, can take us over to Buttermilk Falls State Park. I live right next to it, so it's I go there a lot. I walk in the park there a lot, and I get pictures. And here's the upper park. It's called Lake Treman. It's a really small lake. It's really a big pond, not a really big pond, a pond, but called Lake Treman. It gets a lot of people confused that behind the dam here, it's actually filling in quite a lot. It was probably built back in the 30s during the Depression by the Civilian Conservation Corps, and it's going to be used for recreation, but It isn't anymore. It's got a nice trail around it, about 1.5 miles. A lot of people run, walk, and walk their dogs around it. It's very lovely. And the dam is still there, holding up well. This is a cliff on the left-hand side of the trails that heads up on the bluff. That would be to the left in this case, and if we're looking at it from the other side of the dam, this would be the bluff that trail goes up on. And let's see. And then looking back at the other side from where that picture was taken. What picture am I talking about? Was taken? This one. This one was taken from here, looking the other way. And then back to the dam. Here, that picture and that cliff. And then I took a picture of this wall here. You can see the dam in the upper left, and then the wall. It was rebuilt here by the park masons, because they get damaged a lot by the weather, but also by people who do not appreciate our parks. And so I thought that was an interesting structure and picture to include. And then looking downstream from the dam, there's some colors in the gorge as it heads into the picnic area. So there are a lot of little lakes in our gorges, and like Beebe Lake in Fall Creek Gorge, and then 6 Mile Creek has 3 different dams in it with a couple of reservoirs behind them. And it's places where the stream has cut through rock and creates a narrow passage, and caused by the diversion of the stream from the Ice Age, by the Ice Age. And so it results in a nice place to put a dam if you want to get a reservoir or just a recreational lake, like in this case. And you can dam it up where the gorge narrows in, and where it has been detoured through rock. Now, there's one more picture here. This is of leaves that have fallen. So what happens to all of those leaves? You can see they're all turning brown. We all know that. But like I said, it's the tannic acid in the leaves that tends to preserve them through the winter. So they will not decay quite so rapidly. And like I say, I don't know whether that's nature's design or just the way it worked out. But that's the last fall color, is the browns, as the glory of autumn fades to winter. And then trees are all getting ready for the icy blasts to come down. So what's the purpose of trees dropping their leaves? Well, these deciduous trees, as they're called, broadleaf trees. Not all broadleaf trees are deciduous, and not all trees are broadleafed. Not all deciduous trees are broadleafed. But in general, broadleaf trees here are deciduous. And these leaves give up a tremendous amount of water. And if they were to continue to stay on the tree, they would give up so much water that the tree would dry out and not survive the winter. And the other thing is, of course, when you get an early snowfall, like in October, the leaves would carry so much snow weight that it would just rip the trees apart. That actually happened in New England last year, southern New England, when a Halloween snowstorm left up to 3 feet of snow in Massachusetts and Connecticut, and tore down billions of trees. And my brother, for instance, that was out of power for about a week and a half, at least. He fortunately had a generator he'd bought for Hurricane Irene. Well, that's about all we've got time for today. So we'll wrap it up here. I'll find my final picture here. So thank you for joining me. We'll see you again next week.